Maki Herbert, leader of the Aotearoa Legalised Cannabis Party. Kia ora, Maki, are you there?
Kia ora.
How are you?
Good, thanks, mate. Yeah, we're here.
Excellent.
Sorry.
Now, let's kick into our first question for you. There are 41,000 homeless in New Zealand, with 1,600 dying each year from the cold, tens of thousands more living in overcrowded conditions, and hundreds of thousands locked out of home ownership. What will the Aotearoa Legalised Cannabis Party do for them?
We are endorsing the hemp industry. We know that if we had people with their own land, a hectare of land grows one 3-bedroom house. So it takes 120 days to grow hemp. So that's 3 crops a year. That's 3 homes on 1 hectare of land. And so if everybody got behind the hemp industry and grew hemp, we'd have a surplus of all sorts of products that can be made into. For example, biofuel. Of course, we know the hemp seed is really good for omegas 3, 6, and 9. But I'll get back to the housing. Yeah, I think that the housing problem can be solved with the hemp industry.
One of the truly perverse outcomes of making cannabis illegal is the throwing people into prisons. We've seen almost 6,500 New Zealanders arrested every year. That number still hasn't come down. The hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars spent on keeping them locked up in prison. Why is it that we cannot make any real, genuine political movement on deregulating or regulating cannabis in this country? Why?
It's called the willingness of the government. If they're not willing to be open-minded, take into consideration the Commission report, the Health Commission report in 2011 that recommended that cannabis become a health issue and not a criminal issue. I'm sure that will go a long way if we implemented some of the recommendations that the Commission recommended.
One of the perverse outcomes, another perverse outcome, of course, is this sudden rise in synthetic cannabis. Doesn't that just tell you everything that's wrong with the current system, where a synthetic version of a drug which doesn't kill people is actually being promoted because we won't legalise cannabis?
Absolutely, and we need to be renaming it as what it really is, a synthetic poison. It has nothing to do with cannabis, and honestly, it's the one thing that really pisses me off about media. 1 minute they're talking about cannabis, and then next minute they're demonising it with synthetic cannabis. And I find that really insulting to the cannabis plant itself, because as we know, it has that health aspect to it, like for medicine. We want to free the plant for those ones that choose to be organic. You know, we're not saying that that's the recipe for everybody. Sure, there's going to be still people that want to go to the doctor and have the prescription surgical pharmacy drug, because in their mind, that's what the doctor's going to give them. But we know for millions of years that the herb cannabis has been medicinal.
We, I think, have had 20 synthetic poison deaths this year alone. I was searching through coroner reports. I can't find one cannabis overdose in New Zealand's history.
Well, that's right. And because you know why? Because nobody's died from cannabis overuse. Nobody. If anybody's going to be using cannabis to the extreme of abuse, the only thing that's really going to happen to them is that they're going to get the munchies and go to bed and go to sleep and wake up like, oh, gee, well, I haven't got a hangover.
What sort of economic impact would regulating the cannabis market have for New Zealand?
Oh, millions and millions of dollars, billions of dollars would be coming into the economy. You know, I mean, the government spends $400 million a year on prohibition. And as we know, since prohibition started, if it was working, it would be working, but it's not. We still have hundreds of people using cannabis for one way or another, whether it be for recreational, spiritual, or for medicinal. And
One of the great disgraces I feel that I witnessed in my time as a New Zealander was watching someone like Helen Kelly, who was a genuine people's hero, I believe, and who always went the extra mile for her fellow New Zealanders, watching her have to die as a criminal because she was unable to get the medicine that she required that would alleviate her pain. Why has it taken so long for medicinal cannabis to have its moment?
Well, that's the question we get asked all the time. And I just take it back to the willingness of the government. And obviously they haven't got the willingness to see the truth. It's called ignorance. Our government has been full of ignorance by choice. There's no more excuses. We had the excuses up over our heads now. It's time for change. It's time for stop making us criminals.
How is it that we, little old New Zealand, is so far behind everybody else on this page globally? I mean, the United States of America, the home of the war on drugs, is now far more liberal and far more progressive than little old New Zealand. How has that happened?
Well, it just comes back to our governments again. You know, hundreds of thousands of us know the truth. And like you say, America has shown the way from prohibition to legalization. They've put in the policies, they're making the policies work, they're tweaking the policies where they need to. Crime has come down, people have got hope. And so that in itself, when people have got hope, the poverty is decreased, people have got employment, people have got enough money in your pocket to go and put real food on their table. There's money in the pocket to clothe the kids. And this is where hemp comes into as well. You know, there's so many products that can be made to make us healthy again.
Thank you, Maki. You have 30 seconds for your closing statement. Why should New Zealanders vote Aotearoa Legalised Cannabis Party this election?
Well, if you're okay about the present government wanting to make you a criminal, well, you go and vote for them. Aotearoa Legalised Cannabis Party has been around for 21 years advocating for law reform. That's why you should vote for us.
Kia ora. Thank you for joining us.
Kia ora.